Blood stains the silk sheets crimson. Isla screams, her body convulsing, as another contraction tears through her. Day 36. 5 weeks since her wedding night, but the twins are coming now early and wrong and dangerous. The pack healer's face drains of color as she examines the laboring Luna. Her hands shake. "Both twins are breached, your majesties." The old woman's voice cracks. "I can save the Luna or the babies. Not all three. You must choose." Two identical roars shake the walls. Windows rattle in their frames, the chandelier sways overhead, crystals chiming like funeral bells. Thorn Nightshade stands on one side of the massive bed, his silver eyes blazing with alpha power barely contained. His twin brother Blaze mirrors him on the other side, amber eyes burning like molten gold. Both kings, both alphas, both mates to the woman dying between them. Save them all. They command in perfect unison, their voices carrying the weight of absolute authority. But even kings cannot defy biology. Even alpha power cannot rewrite the laws of nature. Isla's hand finds theirs through the blinding pain. Her white hair spreads across the pillow like spilled moonlight. Red eyes, pale skin, the albinism that marked her as cursed from birth. The defect that led to her rejection. The weakness that became her greatest strength. "How did we get here?" she gasped between contractions, her grip on their hands tightening. 5 weeks ago, I was nothing. A cursed Omega about to be executed. How did I become this? The memory pulls her under like a riptide. White light explodes behind her eyes. The present fades. The story rewinds to where it truly began. Day -7, the day everything ended so that everything else could begin. Before we find out if she survives, comment where in the world you're watching from, and don't forget to subscribe. Silver Creek Pack, Oregon, 7 days before the claiming. The assembly hall was packed with wolves, their bodies pressed shoulder to shoulder, all gathered to witness what they believed would be a bonding ceremony. Isla Ravencroft stood at the center of it all, wearing a simple white dress that made her pale skin look even more ghostly under the harsh lights. She was 21 years old and had never felt more alone. The pack had decorated the hall with silver ribbons and white flowers, traditional symbols of Omega purity. They should have been celebrating. Instead, the air tasted like funeral ash and bitter judgment. Garrett Wolfsbane stood before her, tall and conventionally handsome with dark hair and coal green eyes. He wore formal pack attire, the silver embroidery marking his status as Beta. Second in command, a respectable match for an Omega, even a defective one. He looked at her the way someone might look at spoiled meat. "Let's get this over with," Garrett said, loud enough for the entire assembly to hear. No tenderness, no ceremony. Just disgust, poorly masked as duty. Isla's father, Alpha Cole Ravencroft, stood to the side with his jaw clenched. He had negotiated this arrangement for months, trading favors and promises to secure Garrett as a mate for his cursed daughter. Cole was a good father who loved his strange, pale child. But love could not overcome pack politics or the weight of superstition. Garrett cleared his throat, and the murmuring crowd fell silent. "I, Garrett Wolfsbane, hereby make my declaration before this pack and the goddess herself." Isla's hands trembled. She clasped them together to hide the shaking. She would not show weakness, would not give them the satisfaction of seeing her break. "I reject you, Isla Ravencroft." The words hit like physical blows. Around the hall, wolves gasped or nodded in grim approval. Some looked away, unable to watch. Most stared with hungry curiosity, eager to witness the spectacle of her humiliation. Garrett continued, his voice rising with righteous conviction. "Your albinism is a curse upon our bloodline. Your late Omega presentation proves a defective heritage. You did not manifest until 21 years old, at a full 3 years past normal. This indicates weakness in your wolf corruption in your blood." Isla lifted her chin. She would not cry, would not beg, would not give him the power of her tears. "I will not taint my family's legacy with your weakness," Garrett declared. "I will not risk cursed children. I will not bind myself to an Omega the goddess herself has clearly marked as unworthy." The crowd erupted in mixed reactions. Some howled approval, others shifted uncomfortably, sensing the cruelty beneath the formal words. Alpha Cole stepped forward. "Garrett, this was agreed upon. The contract—" "I invoke Section 7, Garrett cut him off. "Right of refusal for genetic defect. The contract is void." Cole's face went red with anger and shame. "My daughter is not defective. She is unique, blessed, perhaps not cursed." "Then let her father keep her," Garrett sneered. He turned to address the Pack Council, 6 elderly wolves who govern Silver Creek's laws. "I call for formal exile. Isla Ravencroft's presence endangers our pack's reputation. Other packs whisper about our cursed Omega. They question our bloodlines because we harbor her. For the good of Silver Creek, she must go. The council members exchanged glances. Elder Marcus, the head counselor, stood slowly. His ancient bones creaked. A vote is required for exile, Marcus said carefully. All in favor. Hands rose throughout the hall. More than half the pack. Some raised their hands reluctantly, swayed by pack politics. Others thrust theirs up eagerly, ready to be rid of the cursed Omega, who made them all look weak by association. Opposed, only 2 hands rose. Alpha Coles and his mates, Elder Marcus nodded grimly. By vote of 8-2, Isla Ravencroft is hereby exiled from Silver Creek territory. You have 24 hours to gather your belongings and leave. If you are found within our borders after sunset tomorrow, you will be executed as a rogue. The hall erupted in howls, some triumphant, others uncertain. Isla stood frozen in the center of it all, the white dress suddenly feeling like a burial shroud. She looked at Garrett, this man who had just destroyed her entire life with formal words and public cruelty. Their eyes met. He smiled. It was the smile of someone who had won a game she had not known she was playing. The smile of someone who took pleasure in her pain. Isla turned and walked from the hall with her spine straight and her head high. She did not run, did not stumble. She walked like a queen leaving a kingdom that was no longer worthy of her presence. Behind her, the pack continued howling. She did not look back. Days -6 through -1. The wilderness between Oregon and Washington. Isla traveled with a single backpack containing everything she owned. 3 changes of clothes, a water bottle, a knife her father had pressed into her hands before she left, his eyes filled with helpless fury and love. Go north, Cole had whispered during their final embrace. There are rumors of a powerful pack in the Cascade Mountains, the Nightshade territories. They say the twin kings who rule there are fair, that they judge wolves by their actions, not their appearances. It's your only chance. So north she went through dense forest that had never seen human footprints, following game trails and her instincts. She traveled at night when her red eyes could see clearly in darkness. She avoided other wolves, sensing their territories and skirting carefully around established borders. On the 3rd day, she ran out of food. Her stomach cramped with hunger, but she pushed forward. Survival was not comfort. Survival was putting one foot in front of the other until you reached somewhere safe. On the 4th day, she found a stream. The water was cold enough to hurt her teeth, but she drank until the cramping eased. She washed the dirt from her face and hands, watching her pale reflection ripple in the current. Ghost Girl, Cursed Child, Defective Omega, all the names they had called her echoed in the running water. On the 5th day, she killed a rabbit with her knife. The creature had been drinking from a pond, unaware of the predator downwind. Isla's father had taught her to hunt during the years when it became clear she might need to survive alone. She ate the meat, raw blood, staining her pale hands, the taste of survival bitter on her tongue. She was an Omega alone in the wilderness. Every moment was survival. Every step was defiance of those who had cast her out to die. On the 6th day, she crossed into Washington state. The mountains rose higher here, snow-capped peaks touching low clouds. The air tasted different, colder, wilder, free. She allowed herself to hope. The rogues attacked just after sunset. 3 males, their wolves twisted by years without pack bonds. Their eyes gleamed yellow in the failing light, feral and hungry. They circled her like predators who had found easy prey, moving with the synchronized patience of hunters who had worked together before. Look what wandered into our territory. The largest one said, his voice rough as gravel. Scars crisscrossed his bare chest, marks of battles fought and barely survived. A pretty little Omega, all alone. Isla's hand found her knife fingers wrapping around the familiar grip. Leave me alone. They laughed. The sound echoed through the darkening forest like hyena calls. She's got spirit, the second rogue said, licking his lips. He was leaner than the first, with wild hair and wilder eyes. Alphas always break the spirited ones first, but we're not Alpha's, sweetheart. We take our time. The third rogue inhaled deeply, his nostrils flaring. She's unclaimed. No mate marks, no pack scent. Just ripe and ready. They moved in synchronization, closing the circle. Isla's heart hammered against her ribs. She was exhausted, half-starved, no match for 3 fully grown male wolves, even if they were rogues. But she had not survived rejection and exile just to die in these woods. The largest rogue lunged, first arms outstretched to grab her. Isla dropped low and drove her knife upward with all her strength. The blade, silver-edged and blessed by her father's pack shaman, sank deep into the rogue's throat. His eyes went wide with shock, hands flying to the wound. Blood dark and hot sprayed across her face and chest. He fell choking on his own death, clawing at the earth. The other two rogues froze, reassessing. This was not easy prey after all. This pale Omega had just killed their leader with a single strike. "You little—" The second one snarled, rage replacing hunger in his eyes. The howl cut through the forest like a blade. Then another, then a dozen more, harmonizing into a sound that made the trees themselves seem to vibrate. The earth trembled with the approach of something massive and organized. The Nightshade Patrol had arrived. Massive wolves, twice the size of normal pack members, burst from the tree line. They wore the midnight black fur that gave their pack its name, with silver eyes that gleamed like moonlight. Their movements were coordinated, military in precision, deadly in execution. The rogues ran. The patrol let them go, more interested in the strange albino Omega standing over a fresh corpse with a bloody knife in her hand. 5 wolves shifted into human form, the transformation fluid and practiced. Warriors, all of them, their bodies marked with scars and their bearing radiating lethal competence. They wore simple clothing, dark fabrics that blended with the forest. The patrol leader, a scarred female with cropped black hair and eyes like chips of ice, approached slowly. "You killed him." Isla nodded, unable to speak. Adrenaline was crashing through her system like poison. She was shaking now, the knife slipping from her blood-stained fingers to land in the dirt. "Impressive," the woman said, genuine respect in her voice. "For an Omega. What's your name?" "Isla Ravencroft. I was from Silver Creek Pack. I'm in exile. I'm traveling north. I didn't know this was claimed territory. I'll leave." The patrol leader studied her with keen intelligence, taking in the blood, the exhaustion, the desperate determination. "You're trespassing in Nightshade lands. That's a crime. But you defended yourself against rogues. That earns consideration." She gestured to the other warriors. "Bind her hands. We'll take her to the Twin Kings. They can decide her fate." Isla's hands were tied with rope that smelled like pine in winter. She did not resist. She had no strength left to resist. They walked through the night, the patrol surrounding her in a protective formation despite her prisoner status. As dawn broke over the mountains, they reached the border of something vast and organized and powerful. The Nightshade territories spread before her like a kingdom from ancient stories. Stone buildings rose from the forest floor, their architecture blending seamlessly with natural rock formations. Wolves moved with purpose and discipline, their interactions showing the kind of social cohesion that only came from strong leadership. The scent of hundreds of pack members mingled in the air, creating a tapestry of belonging that made Isla's chest ache with longing. She had been alone for so long. At the center of it all stood a massive structure built from dark wood and mountain stone, the Nightshade Keep, home of the twin AlphaKings who ruled the most powerful pack in the Pacific Northwest. The patrol led her through guarded gates where warriors nodded to their leader, through torchlit corridors that spoke of wealth and history, past tapestries depicting wolves in battle and wolves in celebration. Pack members stopped to stare at her pale skin and red eyes. Some whispered, some made warding signs. The cursed Omega had entered their territory. They brought her to the throne room just as morning light streamed through high windows, turning dust motes into floating gold. And there, on twin thrones carved from black oak and inlaid with silver, sat the AlphaKings who would change her destiny forever. Day 0, evening, the Nightshade Keep throne room. The room was built to intimidate, 60 feet from floor to vaulted ceiling, columns carved with running wolves, their forms so lifelike they seemed ready to leap from stone. Tapestries depicting ancient battles and legendary hunts covered the walls, each one a story of glory and violence. And at the far end, raised on a dais of polished stone, 2 thrones side by side. Identical thrones for identical kings. Isla was pushed forward by gentle but firm hands. Her wrists were still bound. Blood from the dead rogue had dried on her face and clothes cracking when she moved. She looked like a wild thing dragged from the forest. In many ways she was. The assembled pack fell silent as she approached. Hundreds of wolves lined the walls, all watching with varying degrees of curiosity, suspicion, and shock at her appearance. Then she saw them and the rest of the world fell away. Thorn and Blaze Nightshade, the twin AlphaKings of legend, rulers of the most powerful pack in 500 years. They were identical in build and features. Both stood well over 6 feet tall with broad shoulders and the kind of muscular definition that came from years of combat training. Dark hair fell to their shoulders, held back with simple leather ties. Strong features, all sharp angles and masculine beauty. Tan skin marked with faint scars that spoke of battles survived. But their eyes, Their eyes were different. Thorn, seated on the left throne, had eyes of pure silver. Not gray, not blue-gray, but actual silver like liquid metal catching moonlight. They were cold and calculating, the eyes of someone who thought 10 steps ahead in every situation. Blaze on the right had eyes of amber fire, rich golden orange that seemed to glow low with inner heat. They were warm and intense, the eyes of someone who felt everything with burning passion. Both pairs of eyes locked onto Isla the moment she entered their line of sight. The mate bond hit her like lightning. It was not gentle. It was not a soft pulling or a mild attraction. It was a catastrophic force that rewrote her entire nervous system in the space of a single heartbeat. Her knees buckled. She would have fallen if a warrior had not caught her elbow, steadying her. The bond snapped into place with the sound of breaking chains and shattering walls. She felt them, both of them, flooding into her consciousness like a river breaking through a dam. Thorn's controlled intensity, like standing next to a glacier that could move and crush you at any moment. Blaze's passionate fire, like standing too close to a bonfire that wanted to consume everything. Two distinct presences, two powerful souls, both reaching for her with desperate hunger. Both of them were her fated mates. Both of them. It was impossible. Unheard of. Against every law of nature she understood. Thorn rose from his throne slowly, his silver eyes wide with shock. For a moment, his legendary control slipped, and she saw raw wonder beneath the cold exterior. An albino Omega, he said, his voice deep and controlled, despite the storm raging behind his eyes. A rare bloodline. I've only read about them in ancient texts. The last documented case was... He trailed off, still staring. Blaze stood as well, faster, less controlled. His hands gripped the arms of his throne, hard enough to make the wood creak. Ours, he growled, the single word vibrating with alpha command and desperate claiming. The goddess sent her to US. The assembled pack erupted in whispers. Shocked conversations rippled through the throne room like wind through wheat fields. Twin bonds were myth, legend, cautionary tale. Not reality. Not something that actually happened. An elderly woman stepped from the shadows beside the thrones. She was small, barely 5 feet tall, with white hair that fell past her waist like a river of moonlight and eyes that had seen too many lifetimes. Her presence carried weight that had nothing to do with physical size. Power radiated from her in subtle waves. Elder Sybil, the pack's oracle, keeper of prophecies and ancient knowledge. The last twin-bonded Omega lived 500 years ago. Sybil said, her voice cracked with age but clear as crystal. Each word carried the weight of absolute certainty. Alara the White, she had pale skin like this one, red eyes like blood on snow. The twin alphas of her time claimed her with joy and celebration. Within a year, she had gone mad, unable to separate her own thoughts from theirs. Within 2 years, she had taken her own life, unable to bear the weight of 2 alpha bonds pressing on her soul. The throne room fell deathly silent. Even the whispers died. Sybil moved closer to Isla, studying her with those ancient eyes that had witnessed the rise and fall of a dozen pack dynasties. This one may be stronger, or history may repeat itself as it so often does. The goddess plays dangerous games with her blessed children. Isla found her voice, though it came out rougher than she intended. I don't understand. How can I be mated to both of you? That's not possible. And yet it is, Thorn said, descending from the dais with predatory grace. He moved like violence, barely restrained, each step precise and purposeful. I can feel you, here. He pressed his hand to his chest, like a hook through my heart pulling me toward you. Like gravity itself has shifted. Blaze followed, circling to approach from the other side. Your scent, he breathed, inhaling deeply, his pupils dilated. Snow and wildflowers and something ancient. My wolf is going insane. He wants to claim you right here, right now, in front of everyone. But we won't, Thorn added quickly, seeing the flash of fear in Ila's eyes. We have control. We have honor. You're terrified and exhausted and covered in blood. This is not how we begin. They stopped a few feet away, flanking her, but not crowding. Close enough that she could feel the heat radiating from their bodies. Far enough that she could breathe. What's your name? Blaze asked, his voice gentler now. Isla Ravencroft. I was of Silver Creek Pack in Oregon. She hesitated, shame burning her throat like acid. I was rejected and exiled. I killed a rogue on your lands while defending myself. I didn't mean to trespass. You were rejected. Thorn's voice went cold as winter ice's alpha power flaring visibly. By whom? Garrett Wolfsbane, beta of Silver Creek. He said I was defective because of my albinism and late presentation. The pack voted to exile me. And then Silver Creek is led by fools. Blaze snarled, his amber eyes flashing with rage on her behalf. You are not defective. You are extraordinary. The goddess does not make mistakes when she creates fated mates. Isla's vision blurred. She was so tired, so overwhelmed. The bond was pulling at her, trying to merge her consciousness with theirs, and she had no defenses, no training, no preparation for this. I can't be your mate, she whispered. I can't. That Omega Alara, she went mad. She died. I'm already cursed. I'll ruin you both. I'll ruin your pack. Let me go. Let me die in the wilderness. It's better than... No. Both kings spoke simultaneously, their voices overlapping in perfect harmony, creating an echo of absolute denial. Thorn stepped closer, his hand rising to touch her face, then stopping inches away, asking permission without words. Isla nodded, unable to speak. His fingers brushed her cheek, feather light. The touch sent electricity racing down her spine. The bond flared brighter, singing with recognition and rightness. You are not cursed, Thorn said softly. You are blessed, and we will not let you go. Not now, not ever. Blaze moved to her other side, his hand finding her shoulder. The dual touch nearly drove her to her knees again. Stay, he said simply. Give us a chance. Give yourself a chance. Let us prove that you are not cursed. Let us show you what it means to be treasured, not rejected. To be chosen, not cast aside. Isla looked between them, these two powerful kings who stood before a cursed Omega, and offered her not slavery but partnership. Not ownership, but choice. For the first time in 7 days, she felt something other than despair. She felt hope. I'll stay, she whispered, but I have conditions. The twin kings smiled, identical expressions of surprise and delight. Of course you do, Thorn said. Let's hear them. Days 1 through 7, the path to the full moon. The contract negotiations took place in a private study lined with ancient books and maps of territories stretching across 3 states. Isla sat across from the twin kings with Elder Sybil as witness. The old oracle had insisted on being present, citing laws and traditions that protected Omegas from coercion. Isla's hands shook as she laid out her terms. She had spent the entire night awake formulating demands that would give her some measure of control in this impossible situation. First condition, she said, meeting Thorn's silver eyes directly. No permanent marks without my explicit consent. Each time. The mate bond is already in place, but marking is a choice. I reserve that choice. Thorn nodded slowly. Agreed. Though you should know that without marks, the bond will remain unstable. It will cause all 3 of us significant pain. I understand, but it's my choice to make. Second condition, she continued, looking at Blaze now. I retain the right to refuse any intimate activity that feels wrong or harmful. My body is my own. My consent must be ongoing, not a single declaration. Blaze's amber eyes blazed with approval. Agreed. Anyone who would demand otherwise is not worthy of being called a mate. Third condition, if you ever use me as a political pawn, if you trade my safety or well-being for territorial gain or pack advantage, I walk. The bond will hurt, possibly kill me to break it, but I will die free rather than live as a tool. Silence fell over the study. Elder Sybil watched the twins carefully. That condition, Thorn said slowly, assumes we would value power over your life, that we would sacrifice you for political gain. I don't know you, Isla said bluntly. You're kings. You rule territories. Pack politics destroyed my life once already. I won't let it happen again without fighting back. Then let us be clear, Blaze said, leaning forward. His intensity filled the room like heat from a furnace. You are our fated mate, given to us by the goddess herself. If we had to choose between you and our entire kingdom, we would choose you, every single time, without hesitation. We would make different choices, Thorn added. We would find strategies that protected both you and the pack. But if forced to a final decision, our mate comes first. Always. Isla searched into their faces for deception. Found none. Only sincerity that seemed to radiate from their very souls through the mate bond. In writing, she said quietly, all 3 conditions, signed by both of you and witnessed by Elder Sybil. Thorn smiled, and it transformed his cold features into something warm. Our little Omega has teeth. I like it. I like it very much, Blaze agreed. The contract was drawn up that afternoon. 3 pages of formal legal language that essentially gave Isla more rights and protections than most mated Omegas received in a lifetime. Thorn and Blaze signed without hesitation. Their signatures were identical, flowing script that marked them as educated leaders. Elder Sybil signed as witness, then looked at Isla with those ancient eyes. You have bought yourself safety in the practical sense, the old woman said. But know this, child, the mate bond does not care about contracts. It will pull you toward them with increasing intensity. It will demand completion. And when the full moon rises in 6 days, tradition requires the claiming ceremony. You can refuse, but the bond will cause all three of you such pain that refusal becomes its own form of torture. What happened to Alara? Isla asked. The twin bonded Omega from 500 years ago. How did she really die? Sybil was quiet for a long moment. She drowned herself in the sacred lake 3 miles from here, left a note saying she could no longer tell where she ended and her mates began, that her soul was dissolving into theirs. She was terrified of losing herself completely, so she chose death while she still had a self to lose. Isla's blood ran cold. And you think I might do the same? I think you might survive where she did not. You have something she lacked. What's that? Spite. Sybil smiled, showing teeth. You have been rejected and exiled. You have killed to survive. You negotiated a contract with kings. Alara was raised in comfort, gifted to her mates like a prize. She had no strength of her own. You, child, are made of steel wrapped in pale skin. You will fight for yourself. That makes all the difference. The next 6 days passed in a strange blur. Isla was given quarters in the royal wing, 3 rooms connected to the twins' private chambers through a door she kept locked. She needed space, needed time to process everything happening to her. But the bond made solitude difficult. She could feel them even through walls. Thorn's controlled presence like steady pressure. Blaze's passionate energy like heat against her skin. On the 3rd day, Morrigan Steele arrived from the Southern Territories. She was a legend in her own right, an Omega who had made it an Alpha King, ruled beside him for 20 years, then continued ruling alone after his death in battle. She was 45 years old and carried herself like a warrior queen. I came as soon as I heard, Morrigan said, embracing Isla in the garden, where she had been trying to find peace among the roses. A twin bonding. I had to see it with my own eyes. You knew Alara? Isla asked. No, she died 4 centuries before my birth, but I studied her story. Every Omega who rises to power learns the cautionary tales. Morrigan sat on a stone bench, gesturing for Isla to join her. I won't tell you it will be easy. The bond will consume you if you let it. You must maintain your sense of self even as you merge with them. It is a balance, and the balance is different for everyone. How do I do that? Make time for yourself. Pursue interests they don't share. Maintain friendships outside the bond. Remember who you were before they found you. Your past does not disappear just because your future has changed. On the 5th day, visitors arrived from Silver Creek. Isla watched from a high window as a delegation of 20 wolves was escorted into the throne room. She recognized the lead figure immediately. Garrett Wolfsbane. Rage flooded her system, hot and choking. He had come here, to the territory where she had found safety, to the pack where she had found mates. She ran downstairs, propriety forgotten. She burst into the throne room just as Garrett was presenting his case to the Twin Kings. Simple misunderstanding, Garrett was saying smoothly. Isla Ravencroft was my intended mate. She ran away before our bonding ceremony, clearly confused by her late presentation. I've come to bring her home. Liar. Isla's voice cut through the room like a blade. Every head turned. Garrett's face went pale, then red as he saw her. You rejected me. Isla continued, walking forward with her spine straight and her head high. You called me cursed and defective before the entire pack. You voted for my exile. I have 20 witnesses who will swear to every word. That's not, Garrett started. I have the memory, Thorn interrupted, his silver eyes cold as a glacier. My mate shared it with me through the bond. I saw everything, heard every word you spoke, felt every moment of her humiliation. As did I, Blaze added, his voice vibrating with barely contained fury. His hands gripped the arms of his throne so hard the wood creaked. You are lucky you stand in our throne room under guest protection. Otherwise, I would tear your throat out for what you did to her. Garrett's delegation shifted nervously. This was not going according to plan. She was stolen from us. Garrett tried again, desperation creeping into his voice. The Nightshade Pack has no right to claim a Silver Creek Omega. We demand her return. She is not Silver Creek, Thorn said coldly. You exiled her. She was cast out, given 24 hours to leave or face execution. She is rogue, and as rogue she entered our territory. As rogue, we claimed her as our fated mate. You have no legal standing. Furthermore, Isla said, surprised by the strength in her own voice, even if I was still Silver Creek, even if the exile was overturned, I would not return. I would never bond with you, Garrett Wolfsbane. I would rather die. The bond pulsed with approval from both her mates. She could feel their pride in her, their satisfaction at her strength. Garrett's mask slipped, his handsome face twisted into something ugly. You'll regret this. Both of you. The Nightshade pack may be powerful, but you're not invincible. And she, he pointed at Isla, she is cursed. She will destroy you from within. Mark my words. Get out, Blaze growled. Now, before our control slips and we forget the laws of guest protection. The Silver Creek delegation fled. Isla watched them go with her heart hammering. She had faced her rejector, had stood strong, had won. Thorn appeared beside her, his hand gently touching her shoulder. You were magnificent. Fierce, Blaze agreed from her other side. Our mate has claws. Isla smiled despite the shaking that had started in her hands. He deserved worse. He'll get worse, Thorn promised darkly, if he ever comes near you again. The full moon rose on the 7th day. The claiming ceremony was set for midnight, traditional timing for mate bonds that involved royalty. The entire pack would witness the public portion, the vows, and the formal acceptance. What came after would be private. Isla dressed in white silk that clung to her curves and made her pale skin luminous in candlelight. Her white hair fell loose down her back. For the first time in her life, she looked at herself in the mirror and saw beauty instead of curse. The walk to the throne room felt eternal. Her feet whispered against stone floors. Her heart beat like thunder. The massive doors opened. Hundreds of wolves stood in silent witness. The throne room had been transformed, decorated with white flowers and silver ribbons. Candles burned in every corner, turning the vast space into something magical. And at the far end, standing before their thrones, the twin kings waited. They wore formal black clothing, silver embroidery marking their status. Their eyes locked onto her the moment she appeared. Silver and amber, winter and fire, both burning with identical hunger. Isla walked forward. Each step felt like destiny clicking into place. The mate bond sang with recognition and completion. Elder Sybil stood between the thrones, her ancient hands holding a silver bowl filled with ceremonial wine. She began the ritual chant words in the old language that predated human civilization. Thorn stepped forward first. His hand extended toward Isla. She placed her hand in his. His fingers closed around hers with infinite care. Do you, Isla Ravencroft, accept Thorn Nightshade as your fated mate? Sybil asked. Do you open your soul to his? Do you bind your life to his until death severs the bond? Isla's voice came out steady and clear. I do. Blaze stepped forward, taking her other hand. Do you, Isla Ravencroft, accept Blaze Nightshade as your fated mate? Do you open your soul to his? Do you bind your life to his until death severs the bond? I do. And do you, Thorn and Blaze Nightshade, accept Isla Ravencroft as your fated mate? Do you swear to protect her, provide for her, and honor her until death severs the bond? We do, the twins said in perfect unison. Elder Sybil raised the ceremonial bowl. Then by the laws of Pack and the will of the goddess, I bind these three souls together. 3 into 1, 1 into 3. From this moment until the end of all moments. She handed the bowl to Thorn. He drank, then passed it to Isla. The wine tasted like honey and moonlight and ancient magic. She passed the bowl to Blaze, who drank deeply, then handed it back to Sybil. The marking, Sybil said softly. Both kings extended their fangs, sharp canines designed to pierce skin and inject bonding pheromones. Isla offered her wrists, one to each mate. This will hurt, Thorn warned, but then it will feel better than anything you've ever experienced, Blaze promised. They bit down simultaneously. Pain exploded up her arms, sharp and fierce. Isla gasped, her knees weakening. But then the pheromones hit her bloodstream, and pain transformed into euphoria so intense she would have collapsed if they were not holding her. The mate bonds, which had been pulling at her for 7 days, suddenly snapped into full power. She felt them flood into her consciousness like a dam breaking. Thorn's mind sharp and strategic. Blaze's emotions passionate and intense. And underneath it all, their absolute devotion to her. The pack erupted in howls. The ceremony was complete. But as the euphoria faded and Isla became aware of her surroundings again, she gasped. Through the bond, through the connection that now linked all three of them, she had seen something. A vision, clear as crystal and terrible as death. She saw Thorn and Blaze on a battlefield, silver arrows flying from the forest. Saw one arrow take Thorn in the throat. Saw another pierce Blaze's heart. Saw both kings fall, blood pooling beneath them, while she screamed and could not stop screaming. What is it? Thorn asked urgently, feeling her distress through the bond. What did you see? Isla's voice came out as barely a whisper. I saw you dying, both of you. Silver arrows. a battle I don't recognize. And I was there, but I couldn't save you. I couldn't. When? Blaze demanded. I don't know, but soon. It felt soon. Elder Sybil's eyes went wide. She grabbed Isla's face, forcing the younger woman to meet her ancient gaze. You had a vision during the bonding, during the marking. Yes. Why? What does that mean? It means, Sybil said slowly, wonder and fear mixing in her voice, that you are not just a twin-bonded Omega. You are an oracle. The goddess has blessed you with the sight. The last oracle Omega lived. She paused. 500 years ago. Her name was Alara. The throne room erupted in shocked whispers. Isla looked at her mates, these two kings she had bound herself to, and felt destiny settling on her shoulders like a heavy cloak. The claiming ceremony was complete. The private claiming still waited, and somewhere in the future a battle approached that would test them all. But for now, in this moment, surrounded by pack and magic, and the mate bond blazing between three souls, Isla allowed herself to hope. Maybe she would not go mad like Alara. Maybe she would not drown in the lake when the bond became too much. Maybe, just maybe, she was strong enough to survive what the goddess had planned for her. The twin kings led her from the throne room toward their private chambers and the claiming night that waited beyond. The story was only beginning. The private chambers were designed for intimacy and comfort in equal measure. High ceilings gave way to warm wooden beams. A massive fireplace dominated one wall, flames casting dancing shadows across thick carpets and furniture, upholstered in deep burgundy. But the centerpiece was impossible to ignore. A bed large enough for three covered in silk sheets the color of moonlight. Isla stood just inside the doorway, her heart hammering so hard she was certain both mates could hear it through the bond. She was 21 years old and had never been kissed, had never been touched with desire, had spent her entire life being told she was cursed, unwanted, defective. And now 2 Alpha Kings looked at her like she was the answer to every prayer they had ever whispered. Thorn moved to the fireplace, adjusting the flames to cast warmer light. His movements were controlled, precise, but she could feel his tension through the bond, the barely restrained need vibrating beneath his calm exterior. Blaze circled behind her, not touching, but close enough that his body heat warmed her back. You're trembling, he observed softly. Fear or anticipation? Both, Isla admitted. Her voice came out steadier than she felt. I don't know what I'm supposed to do. How this works with 2 mates. You're not supposed to do anything, Thorn said, turning from the fireplace. His silver eyes held hers with hypnotic intensity. Tonight is about teaching you pleasure, about showing you what it means to be cherished. We do the work. You simply feel. But I want to please you both, Isla said. I want to be good at this. I just don't know how. Blaze's hand settled gently on her shoulder. The touch sent electricity racing down her spine. You please us by existing, by accepting us, by letting us worship you the way you deserve to be worshipped. Thorn approached slowly, giving her time to process, time to object if she needed. He stopped an arm's length away. May I establish something before we begin? Something important. Isla nodded, unable to form words. Your safe word is mercy, Thorn said clearly. If anything becomes too much, if you feel overwhelmed or frightened or want us to stop for any reason, you say that word. We stop immediately. No questions asked, no disappointment, no judgment. Your comfort and safety matter more than anything else. Do you understand? Mercy, Isla repeated. The weight of that protection settled over her like armor. I understand. Good. Blaze's breath ghosted against her ear. Now may I kiss you, just a kiss. Nothing more unless you want it. Isla turned to face him, tilting her head back to meet those amber eyes. Yes. His hand came up to cup her face with a gentleness that seemed impossible from someone so large and powerful. His thumb brushed her cheekbone. The mate bond flared at the contact, singing with recognition and rightness. Then he kissed her. It was soft at first, barely more than a brush of lips against lips. Testing, learning, in permission with every breath. Isla made a small sound, surprise and pleasure mingling, and his control fractured slightly. The kiss deepened. His tongue traced the seam of her lips until she opened for him. The taste of him flooded her senses, dark and addictive like smoke and spiced wine, and something fundamentally him. His other hand settled on her lower back, pulling her closer until their bodies pressed together. Isla's hands found his shoulders, gripping for balance as the world tilted sideways. This was nothing like she had imagined. This was consuming and overwhelming, and she wanted more, needed more, craved more with an intensity that frightened her. When Blaze finally pulled back, they were both breathing hard. His pupils had dilated until only a thin ring of amber remained visible. My turn, Thorn said from behind her. Isla turned, and his kiss was different. Where Blaze had been fire, Thorn was winter storms and controlled power. He kissed her like he was memorizing every detail, cataloging every response, building a database of what made her gasp and shiver. His hands remained still on her waist, not wandering, not demanding, letting the kiss be enough. When he pulled back, his silver eyes had darkened to the color of storm clouds. You taste like snow and wildflowers, he murmured. Addictive. Isla swayed between them, dizzy from dual sensations flooding through the bond. She could feel their desire, their need pressing against her consciousness like physical weight. But underneath that hunger lay something more important. Patience, care, determination to make this perfect for her. The dress is beautiful, Blaze said, his fingers finding the delicate buttons along her spine. But I want to see what's underneath. May I? Yes, Isla breathed. He worked the buttons slowly, one at a time, each release revealing another inch of pale skin. Thorn watched from the front, his gaze tracking every subtle shift of fabric. When the dress finally loosened enough to slip from her shoulders, Isla caught it suddenly shy. You're perfect, Thorn said softly. Every part of you. Your pale skin is not a curse. It's a mark of distinction, of rarity. Let us see you, Isla. Let us worship what the goddess created. She released the dress. It pooled at her feet in a whisper of silk. Isla stood before them in simple white undergarments, her body exposed to their gazes for the first time. She fought the urge to cover herself, fought years of conditioning that told her she was wrong, broken, unworthy of being seen. Both kings made sounds of pure male satisfaction. Their eyes traveled over her with reverent hunger. Exquisite, Blaze murmured. Absolutely exquisite. They guided her to the bed, settling her in the center of that massive mattress. The silk sheets felt cool against her overheated skin. Thorn and Blaze flanked her fully clothed while she lay vulnerable between them. We're going to touch you now. Thorn explained, his hand hovering over her stomach. Teach your body what pleasure means. Show you that intimacy is not something to fear. Tell us if anything feels wrong. Promise. I promise, Isla whispered. 4 hands began exploring, gentle touches that mapped the landscape of her body with patient thoroughness. They found sensitive spots she had not known existed. The curve where neck met shoulder, the inside of her wrists, the hollow of her throat, the soft skin behind her knees. Each touch built heat inside her layer upon layer until she was breathing hard and making sounds she did not recognize as coming from her own throat. That's it. Blaze encouraged, his mouth finding the mark on her wrist, kissing the bite he had left during the ceremony. Let yourself feel it. Don't fight the pleasure. Thorn's hand traveled higher, skimming over silk to cup her breast through the thin fabric. Isla arched involuntarily, gasping at the sensation. He smiled, clearly pleased with her response. Sensitive here, he observed. We'll remember that. The undergarments came off, slowly removed with the same patient care as everything else. When Isla lay completely bare before them, she expected to feel exposed and vulnerable. Instead, she felt powerful. These 2 kings looked at her with something approaching worship. May we taste you? Blaze asked, his hand settling on her thigh. Use our mouths to bring you pleasure. Isla did not fully understand what he meant, but she trusted them. Yes. What followed was an education in sensation. Blaze positioned himself between her thighs while Thorn claimed her mouth in a deep kiss. When Blaze's tongue found her center, Isla cried out against Thorn's lips. Nothing in her sheltered life had prepared her for this. The intimate kiss, the skill of his mouth, the way he seemed to know exactly where to lick and suck to drive her higher. Her hands flew to his hair, not sure whether to push him away or pull him closer. Relax, Thorn murmured against her neck. Let him pleasure you. Let us show you how good we can make you feel. The pressure built inside her, coiling tighter and tighter until she thought she might break apart. Her body started to shake, trembling, with something she did not understand but desperately needed. I feel strange, she gasped. Like something's building. Like I'm going to... That's it, Thorn encouraged, his hand on her breast, thumb circling. Let go, little moon. Let us see you fall apart. Come for us. The command in his voice, combined with whatever magical thing Blaze was doing with his tongue, sent her over an edge she had not known existed. Pleasure crashed through her in waves so intense they bordered on pain. Her vision went white, her body convulsed, completely out of her control. She was vaguely aware of crying out of both mates, making satisfied sounds, of gentle hands soothing her through the aftershocks. When she finally came back to herself, she found them both watching her with expressions of pure masculine satisfaction. Beautiful, Blaze said, his lips glistening. You're so responsive, so perfect. Isla lay boneless against the silk sheets, her body humming with residual pleasure. That was just the beginning, Thorn promised. They gave her time to recover, both mates now removing their shirts. Firelight cast shadows across defined muscles. Isla's fingers traced the landscape of their bodies with curious wonder. Each scar told a story of survival and brotherhood. "You fought together for a long time," she observed. "Since birth," Blaze said. "We've never been separated for more than a day." "Until now," Thorn added. "Now we have someone more important than ourselves to protect." The thought of these deadly warriors using their strength to keep her safe made something warm bloom in her chest. She continued her exploration, marveling at how two bodies could be so similar, yet respond so differently. Thorn remained still, letting her learn at her own pace. Blaze leaned into every touch, encouraging her with soft sounds. "Your turn to undress completely," Isla said quietly, surprised by her own boldness. They removed their remaining clothing with efficient movements. When they stood bare before her, Isla's breath caught. They were magnificent everywhere, perfectly proportioned, but intimidatingly large. Doubt crept in. "I don't know if that will, the mate bond will help," Thorn assured her, settling beside her on the bed. "Your body was made for ours. The goddess ensures compatibility. It may be intense at first, but we'll prepare you properly." "Who goes first?" Isla asked, looking between them. They exchanged a glance, seeming to communicate silently. "I will," Thorn said, though she could see the effort it cost Blaze to yield. "I have more control right now. I'll be gentler for your first time." He positioned himself above her, his body covering hers, surrounding her with his warmth and scent. Pine and winter storms, the smell that marked him as uniquely Thorn. "I'll go slow," he promised, settling between her thighs. "Tell me if you need me to stop. Are you ready?" Isla wrapped her arms around his neck, trusting him to take care of her. "Yes." He entered her slowly, carefully, watching her face for any sign of distress. The stretch was intense, bordering on uncomfortable, despite the preparation. Isla tensed, and Thorn froze immediately. "Breathe." Blaze coached from beside them, his hand stroking her hair. "Relax and breathe. Let your body adjust." Thorn remained still, giving her time. The mate bond helped, pulsing with reassurance and care. Gradually, discomfort eased into something different. Fullness, completion, rightness. "More," Isla whispered. He pressed deeper, inch by careful inch, until he was fully seated in front of her. They both froze, the moment too profound for movement. Through the bond, she felt him everywhere, not just physically but spiritually. Their souls beginning to merge in ways that transcended physical joining. "You're mine now," Thorn said against her lips, his voice thick with emotion. "Forever and always." "Yours," Isla agreed. He began to move slow and careful, letting her body learn his rhythm. What had started as discomfort transformed into pleasure, building with each measured thrust. Her body rose to meet him, instinct taking over where experience lacked. Blaze's hands and mouth added to the sensation, and soon she was climbing toward another peak. This one felt different, deeper, more intense than the first. "That's it." Thorn groaned, his control starting to fracture. "Come for me, little moon. Let me feel you." When she shattered this time, he followed her over the edge, his body shuddering as he claimed her completely. She felt his essence deep inside her, felt the mate bond between them snap taut and permanent. One connection forged, locked in place forever. But it was not complete, not yet. They gave her water and time to rest. Both mates cleaned her gently with warm cloths, their touches reverent. Isla lay between them, processing everything that had just happened. Through the bond, and she felt Thorn's soul slotted alongside hers like a puzzle piece, finding its place. But there was an emptiness on her other side, a space waiting to be filled by the second connection. "I'm ready," she told Blaze. "I need you too. Need to be complete." He came to her eagerly but still carefully, his approach different from his brother's. Where Thorn had been methodical and controlled, Blaze was passionate intensity held in check by sheer willpower. "You're amazing," he told her as he positioned himself at her entrance, "taking us both so perfectly. Our brave little moon." This joining was easier, her body already adjusted, already understanding what to expect. Blaze entered her with a groan of satisfaction, his movements designed to bring her maximum pleasure. "You feel incredible," he breathed, beginning to move. "So tight, so perfect, made for us." The second claiming built faster. Her body was already primed, already sensitized from the first union. When Blaze's hand found that bundle of nerves his mouth had discovered earlier, she came apart almost immediately, crying out his name. He followed her over golden light, flaring through the bond as their souls locked together. The second connection snapped into place, and suddenly she could feel them both completely. Two distinct presences in her consciousness, two souls intertwined with hers. But as the euphoria faded, Isla gasped. The vision hit her with brutal force. She saw herself saving the twin kings from silver arrows, but the vision continued past what she had seen during the ceremony. She watched as Garrett Wolfsbane stepped from the shadows of that future battlefield, saw him speaking with another man older scarred, radiating dangerous power. Raven Daggerfang her mind supplied, though she had never met him. They were planning something. Conspiracy whispered in shadows, an attack on the Nightshade territories, trafficking of Omegas to fund their rebellion. And at the center of it all, Garrett's hatred for the mate who had rejected him in favor of the Twin Kings. The vision shifted. She saw Omega girls young and terrified held in darkness, felt their fear like acid on her tongue, saw Garrett collecting money from their sale using the profits to buy weapons and loyalty. Then the vision slammed into her present moment with jarring force. During the claiming, during the moment of ultimate vulnerability, she had not just bonded with Blaze, she had awakened something deeper. Oracle powers dormant since birth flooding her system like breaking dam. She could see threads of possibility spreading from this moment into dozens of futures. Most were dark, many ended in death and destruction, but a few shimmered with hope narrow paths that required perfect timing and impossible choices. Isla, Thorne's voice urgent and frightened. What's wrong? What are you seeing? She came back to herself to find both mates hovering over her, their faces pale with concern. She was shaking, tears streaming down her face, the vision's intensity leaving her raw and exposed. Garrett, she gasped. He's not just angry about the rejection. He's planning something with a rogue alpha named Raven Daggerfang. They're trafficking Omegas, selling them to fund an attack on your territory. I saw it. I saw them conspiring. When? Blaze demanded. When does this happen? I don't know. The visions don't come with dates, but soon. It felt soon. Elder Sybil's words from the ceremony echoed in her mind. Oracle Omega. The last one was Alara, 500 years ago. There's more, Isla said, forcing herself to focus despite the exhaustion pulling at her. The Oracle power. It awakened during our bonding. I can see futures now, possibilities, and most of them are dark. Most of them end with blood and death and the pack torn apart. Thorne and Blaze exchanged the look she was beginning to recognize as silent twin communication. Then we'll change those futures, Thorne said firmly. You've given us warning. That's more than most packs get. We'll investigate Garrett's activities. Track this Raven Daggerfang. Stop whatever they're planning before it begins. But I don't know how to control it, Isla whispered. The visions, they come without warning. They overwhelm me. What if I see something and can't tell what's real? What if I go mad like Alara? You won't, Blaze said fiercely, gathering her into his arms. Because you're not alone like she was. You have us. You have the entire pack. We'll help you learn control. Elder Sybil will teach you. You will not face this alone. Isla clung to them both, feeling their warmth, their strength, their absolute conviction flowing through the bond. The night had been meant for celebration and pleasure. Instead, it had ended with prophecy and warnings of war. But as she lay between her mates, their arms wrapped protectively around her, Isla felt something unexpected. She felt safe. The claiming was complete. The bond was permanent, and whatever darkness waited in the futures she had glimpsed, they would face it together. Day 8 dawned cold and bright. Isla woke nestled between her mates, sore in places she had not known could be sore, but profoundly satisfied in ways that transcended physical pleasure. Through the bond, she felt them both still sleeping. Thorne's mind was quiet, organized, even in rest. Blaze's emotions flickered like flames, active even in dreams. She slipped from the bed carefully, not wanting to wake them. Her reflection in the mirror showed marks on her shoulders and throat, where their teeth had grazed her skin during the night, claiming marks that would fade but never disappear completely. Physical proof that she belonged to them now. A knock at the door made her jump. She pulled on a robe, thick velvet, that covered her from throat to ankles. Elder Sybil stood in the hallway, her ancient face unreadable. The Oracle awakens. We have much work to do, child. The next week became a blur of training and discovery. Every morning, Sybil took Isla to a private chamber deep in the keep where she taught the younger woman how to channel and control her visions. The sight is a gift and a curse, Sybil explained on the second day. You will see futures, but futures are not fixed. They are possibilities, threads that can be cut or strengthened by present actions. You must learn to distinguish between certainty and probability. Isla practiced meditation techniques that helped her ground herself when visions threatened to overwhelm. She learned to recognize the difference between true prophecy and anxiety-fueled imagination. She discovered that physical touch with her mates could anchor her, keep her from losing herself completely in the tides of potential futures. But the visions kept coming. Some were minor and inconsequential. She saw a warrior breaking his leg during training 2 days before it happened, saw rain coming 3 hours before clouds appeared, saw a visiting delegation arriving with gifts of silver and furs. Other visions were darker, more troubling. She saw Garrett's face repeatedly, always shadowed, always angry. Saw him speaking with Raven Daggerfang, their voices too low to hear but their intent clear. Conspiracy, rebellion, revenge. On the afternoon of day 15, during combat training with the pack warriors, Isla had a vision so intense it drove her to her knees. Omega girls, 5 of them. Young, terrified, held in darkness. Their fear tasted like copper and ashes. They were calling out, begging for help, but no one could hear them, except Isla. She came back to herself with Thorn and Blaze kneeling beside her, their hands on her shoulders grounding her through the bond. "What did you see?" Thorn asked urgently. "Omegas, 5 of them. They've been taken. I can feel their terror. They're being held somewhere north near the Canadian border. Dark building, smells like old blood and fear. They've been there for days without food. One is injured." Ipo Blaze snarled, his alpha power flaring. "Trafficking. The operation you saw in your vision during the claiming." "We need to investigate," Thorn said, already thinking strategy. "Send scouts north. Question border patrols. Someone must have seen something." "I can track them," Isla said. The words came out before she fully processed what she was offering. "Through the visions, I can feel where they are. I can guide a rescue team." "Absolutely not," both kings said simultaneously. "It's too dangerous," Thorn continued. "You're Luna, our mate. We can't risk you." "They're Omegas like me," Isla insisted, standing despite the exhaustion from the vision. "Being held by traffickers, being sold like property. I won't sit safe in the keep while they suffer. I can help. My oracle sense is the only way to find them quickly." They argued for an hour. In the end, a compromise was reached. Isla would remain at the keep, but would guide the rescue team through the bond, using her visions to direct them to the captive's location. The rescue mission launched that night. 30 warriors led by Blaze personally traveled north with Isla's voice in their minds, steering them through her oracle sight. "Left at the fork," she whispered from her chamber. Eyes closed, consciousness split between present and vision. 3 miles, then you'll see the building. Old warehouse, 12 guards. They're not expecting attack." The raid was swift and brutal. The guards fell before they could raise an alarm. The warriors found exactly what Isla had described: 5 Omega girls, ages 17 to 20, held in cages like animals. Starved, terrified, one with a broken arm that had not been set properly. But the ringleaders were gone. Garrett and Raven had vanished before the attack warned somehow of the impending rescue. When Blaze returned to the keep with the rescued Omegas, Isla was waiting. She embraced each girl personally, feeling their trauma through her heightened empathic senses, wishing she could take their pain away. One Omega, small and delicate with honey-colored hair, clung to Isla and sobbed. "They said no one would come, that we were worthless, that we deserved this." "You are not worthless," Isla said fiercely. "You are treasured. You are packed now. Northern Crown will protect you." "I swear it." The girl looked up with tear-stained face. "My name is Ren Ashford. Thank you. Thank you for not abandoning us." Ren would become important later, Isla sensed. The Oracle site whispered possibilities around this traumatized Omega that felt significant. But for now, she was simply another survivor who needed safety and healing. The rescued Omegas were integrated into the pack over the following days. Healers tended their injuries. Counselors helped with their trauma. The pack warriors, hardened males who had seen countless battles, showed unexpected gentleness with the young females who flinched at sudden movements. But the victory was incomplete. Garrett and Raven remained free. The trafficking operation had been disrupted, not destroyed, and Isla's visions showed darker storms gathering on the horizon. Day 22 arrived with frost covering the training grounds and whispers of early winter in the mountain air. Isla had grown into her role as Luna over the past 3 weeks. She attended council meetings, offered input on pack decisions, and mediated disputes with a wisdom that surprised everyone, including herself. The pack respected her not just as the Twin King's mate, but as a leader in her own right. But tonight, everything would be tested. The infiltration plan had been debated for 2 days. Reports had come in of Omega disappearances, continuing despite the first rescue. 3 more girls had vanished from border packs. The trafficking ring was still operational, and Garrett's involvement was confirmed through intelligence gathered by Nightshade spies. I'm going in as bait, Isla announced during the strategy meeting. The room erupted in immediate objection. Thorne stood so quickly his chair toppled backward. No, absolutely not. They prey on vulnerable Omegas, Isla argued calmly. I need to look vulnerable, appear lost and alone. It's the only way to get inside their operation and identify all the players. She has a point, said Marcus, the head warrior. We've been trying to infiltrate for weeks. They're too careful. But a lone Omega traveling through their territory, they'd take that bait. They'll hurt her, Blaze growled. Torture her. Worse, I won't allow it. You'll track me through the bond, Isla said, looking between her mates. The moment I'm in real danger, you'll know. You can reach me within minutes. But we need to let them think they've caught easy prey. Otherwise, we'll never find their main base. The argument raged until midnight. Finally, reluctantly, with conditions and backup plans and emergency protocols, Thorne and Blaze agreed. 3 days later, Isla found herself alone on a forest path near the Canadian border, dressed in worn clothing, playing the part of desperate rogue Omega fleeing persecution. The trap was sprung within hours. 2 males stepped from the trees, their faces hidden behind masks. Well, well, what's a pretty little Omega doing all alone out here? Isla let fear show on her face. Not hard to fake when real danger pressed close. Please, I'm just trying to reach the Northern Territories. I heard they take in rogues. They might, the first male said, circling her. But you'll never make it there alone. These woods are dangerous. Lucky for you, we can offer protection. For a price, the second added with a laugh that made her skin crawl. They grabbed her arms. Isla did not fight back, playing her role perfectly. Let them think she was helpless. Let them believe the act. They brought her to a compound hidden deep in the forest, an old logging operation converted into a prison. Other Omegas were held here, their eyes hollow with despair. And in an office that stank of cigars and cruelty, Isla came face to face with the man orchestrating it all. Garrett Wolfsbane smiled at her with vicious triumph. Hello, Isla. Did you really think I wouldn't recognize you, even dressed like a beggar? You're unmistakable. That cursed white hair, those demon red eyes. Her heart stopped. The plan had failed. He had known all along. Did you think I was stupid? Garrett continued, circling her like a predator. I've been watching the Nightshade Pack since you rejected me, studying their movements, learning their patterns. I knew you'd come after the Omegas eventually. That bleeding heart of yours, so predictable. He grabbed her chin, forcing her to meet his eyes. You should have been mine. Should have been grateful I was willing to overlook your defects. But you chose them instead. Those arrogant twin kings who think they're untouchable. They'll kill you for this, Isla said quietly. Will they? Garrett pulled a letter from his pocket, yellowed parchment sealed with wax. This is from Blaze Nightshade, written in his own hand, offering to trade you to Raven Daggerfang in exchange for a peace treaty. Your precious mate sold you out Isla. He negotiated your sale while you slept in his bed. He thrust the letter at her. The handwriting was perfect. Blaze's distinctive script, the same flowing letters she had seen on the bonding contract. The letter detailed terms of trade. Isla for territory, Isla for peace, Isla for political advantage. Pain lanced through her chest. The mate bond with Blaze, which had been singing with warmth and connection, suddenly felt dim, distant, like a candle flickering in wind. You're lying, she whispered, but doubt crept in like poison. Am I? Why would I forge something so easy to verify? Ask your precious mate yourself. Ask him if he wrote this letter. Ask him if he's been negotiating with Raven behind your back. Through the bond, Isla reached for Blaze, felt him distant, distracted, his mind focused elsewhere. He did not respond immediately to her touch, and that hesitation felt like confirmation. This was the trial of betrayal, Elder Sybil's prophecy, the test of whether she would trust her mate despite evidence to the contrary. Every logical part of her brain screamed that the letter was real, that Blaze had betrayed her, that she was just a political tool, after all, traded and sold like the Omegas in the cages around her. But underneath the logic, underneath the fear and doubt, the mate bond whispered truth. It pulsed with warmth and devotion that could not be faked. The soul-deep connection they had forged could not lie, no matter what evidence her eyes showed. Isla made her choice. I don't believe you. The letter is a forgery. Blaze would never betray me. Garrett's face twisted with rage. You stupid, naive girl. Even with proof in your hands, you refuse to see truth. Fine, stay loyal to your false mates. It won't save you. You're mine now. And when Raven arrives to collect you, we'll see how much those twin kings really value their cursed Omega. He turned to leave, gesturing to the guards. Lock her with the others. No food, no water. Let her think about her choices. The cell door slammed shut. Isla was alone in darkness with two other Omegas who whispered desperate questions she could not answer. But through the bond, she projected one clear thought to both her mates: I'm here. I trust you. Come find me. I'm ready. And far away in the Nightshade Keep, two Alpha Kings received her message and mobilized every warrior they had. The rescue was coming. The trial of betrayal had been passed. But the true battle was only beginning. The attack came at dawn, swift and merciless. Thorn and Blaze led 50 warriors through the forest in perfect silence, their movements coordinated by years of fighting side by side. They had tracked Isla through the mate bond, following that golden thread of connection through mountains and valleys until it led them to the hidden compound. Inside her cell, Isla felt them approaching. The bond blazed with their fury and fear, their desperate need to reach her. She stood shaking off exhaustion, preparing herself for what came next. The first explosion shattered the compound's main gate. Silver fire created by pack shamans burned through reinforced steel like paper. Warriors poured through the breach, their wolves larger and more powerful than anything the traffickers had faced before. Garrett ran from his office, weapon drawn, but Thorn was already there. The Alpha King moved like death incarnate, silver eyes blazing with rage that transcended reason. You took our mate, Thorn said, his voice utterly calm despite the violence radiating from every line of his body. You threatened her, imprisoned her. For that alone you deserve death. The letter was fake, Garrett spat, backing away. She was supposed to believe Blaze betrayed her. She was supposed to break. How did she know? Because the mate bond cannot lie, Blaze said, appearing from the shadows. His amber eyes glowed with alpha power barely contained. You gambled that fear would override truth. You lost. The fight was brief and brutal. Garrett was skilled, but he was one beta against two Alpha Kings whose mate had been threatened. There was only ever going to be one outcome. When Garrett lay bleeding on the floor, Thorn pressed a blade to his throat. Where is Raven Daggerfang? You'll never find him, Garrett wheezed. He's already gone. Already planning the next attack. You saved these Omegas, but there are dozens more. Hundreds, and you can't save them all. We'll save who we can, Blaze said coldly, and we'll hunt Raven until we find him. But you won't be there to see it. They left Garrett alive, but broken, locked in silver chains that would prevent his wolf from healing him. He would stand trial before the council, face justice for his crimes. Death was too quick, too merciful for what he had done. Isla was found in the holding cells along with 17 other Omegas. When Blaze broke through the door and saw her bruised and exhausted but alive, he made a sound like a wounded animal. I'm okay, she said, walking into his arms. I knew the letter was fake. I knew you wouldn't betray me. The bond told you, Baum, Thorn asked, embracing her from the other side. The bond showed me truth, but I chose to believe it. That was the trial, wasn't it? Trust, despite evidence. Faith, despite doubt. Elder Sybil's words echoed in Isla's mind as they carried the rescued Omegas back to Nightshade territory. The trial of betrayal had been passed, but two more trials remained, and she could feel them approaching like storm clouds on the horizon. Among the rescued Omegas, young Ren Ashford clung to Isla's hand during the entire journey home. The girl had been held by the traffickers for 3 weeks, starved and terrified, but there was steel underneath her fragile exterior. You came back for us, Renan whispered. Even though it was dangerous, even though you're Luna, you came back. Always, Isla promised. Every Omega in these territories is pack, is family. We don't abandon family. The rescued Omegas were brought to the Nightshade Keep where healers and counselors waited. The pack embraced them with the same fierce protectiveness they showed all vulnerable members. Within days, the traumatized girls began to heal, finding safety and belonging in their new home. But Isla's visions continued to show darkness gathering. Raven Daggerfang had not been captured. His army was still being assembled, and the prophecy spoke of 2 more trials before her path would be complete. On day 33 weeks after the trafficking rescue, visitors arrived from the Eastern Territories. Ancient Alpha Mordecai Stone, a wolf who had ruled for 60 years, led a delegation of 12 Alphas representing the traditional coalition. They were old guard wolves who remembered when Omegas had no voice and rules were absolute. Mordecai stood in the throne room and delivered his ultimatum. The Nightshade Pack has grown too powerful, too progressive. You allow Omegas to hold positions of authority. You rescued rogues and gave them pack status, and now you've made an albino Omega your Luna. His disgust was barely concealed. The coalition demands proof that this Omega is worthy, proof that she can lead. We invoke the ancient right of trial by sovereignty. She's proven herself 100 times over, Blaze snarled. To you, perhaps, Mordecai said coldly, but we require traditional proof. Combat or wisdom trial, her choice. Oh, Isla stood from her place beside the twin thrones. She was 5 weeks pregnant now, though only she and her mates knew. The twins growing inside her were developing impossibly fast. Another gift of the Oracle Bond Elder, Sybil had explained. What should take months was condensing into weeks. The baby's alpha power was already palpable, two sparks of future possibility that burned brighter each day. I accept wisdom trial, Ayla said clearly, and I propose a modification. Not just my wisdom against a champion's, but solutions to real problems your territories face. Let the pack judge which approach serves them better. Mordecai's eyes narrowed. You would challenge my champion, Brutus Wolfsbane. Isla's heart sank. Brutus, Garrett's older brother, a warrior with 35 years of combat experience and a reputation for ruthless efficiency. I would, she said, lifting her chin. The trial was set for 3 days, hence giving both sides time to prepare. Morgan Steele arrived from the Southern Territories to coach Isla, sharing strategies she had used during her own rise to power. They'll give you scenarios designed to make you fail, Morgan warned. Impossible pursuits with no good options. You must find the third path, the solution no one else has considered. The trial took place in the Great Hall before the assembled pack and visiting delegations. Hundreds of wolves gathered to witness their Luna prove herself against a legendary warrior. Elder Sybil presented the first scenario. A fortress or civilians? Your pack's main stronghold is under attack. You can save the fortress, which holds strategic value and weapons, or evacuate the civilians in the surrounding village, but not both. What do you choose? Brutus answered immediately. Save the fortress. Strategic advantage wins wars. Civilians can be replaced. On murmurs of agreement from the traditional coalition, murmurs of disgust from the Nightshade pack. Isla stepped forward. False choice. I would use the civilians to create a diversion, drawing attackers away from a weak point in the fortress. While they are distracted, a small elite force enters through that weakness and secures the fortress from within. Both saved, no unnecessary death. The pack erupted in howls of approval. Mordecai's face darkened, but he nodded for the next scenario. A traitor with innocent children, Sybil continued. One of your trusted advisors has been selling pack secrets to enemies. He has 3 children under 10 years old. Ancient law demands execution of the bloodline to prevent future treachery. What do you do? Brutus's answer was swift. Execute the entire bloodline. Send a message that betrayal costs everything. No exceptions. Isla felt sick but kept her voice steady. I would use the traitor's skills and knowledge under supervised conditions. He clearly has talents that served enemies well. Those talents could serve the pack instead. His children would be fostered by loyal families given chance to prove their own honor. Mercy creates loyalty that fear never can. And a reformed traitor who watches his children grow because of pack compassion, that becomes the strongest bond possible. More howls of approval. Even some of the coalition wolves nodded reluctantly. The final scenario was cruel in its simplicity. Famine. There is not enough food for everyone to survive the winter. How do you ration by rank and strength? Brutus said. Alphas and warriors first. They protect the pack. Omegas and weak last. Survival of the fittest. Isla took a deep breath, channeling everything Morgan had taught her, everything she had learned in her weeks as Luna. Shared resources based on contribution, not rank. Strong wolves hunt farther afield, expanding territory temporarily. Omegas have knowledge of foraging and preservation that alphas often ignore. We combine that knowledge to extend supplies. Those who can work, those who cannot receive care. Everyone contributes according to ability. Everyone receives according to need. That's not weakness. That's the strength of community over individualism. The vote was called. Every Nightshade wolf howled for their Luna. Most of the visiting delegations joined them. Even Mordecai, though his face showed grudging respect, raised his hand in acknowledgement. The Omega Luna has proven her wisdom, the ancient Alpha said. The trial of sovereignty is past. But as the hall erupted in celebration, Isla doubled over with sudden pain. A vision more powerful than any she had experienced slammed into her consciousness with brutal force. She saw 2 battlefields, north and south, Thorn leading warriors against Raven's forces at the northern border, Blaze defending the eastern approach against the Second Army, both battles happening simultaneously. And in both visions, silver arrows flew from hidden positions. She saw Thorn take an arrow to the throat, saw Blaze pierce through the heart, saw both kings fall while she screamed and screamed. The vision showed her a choice. She could warn one mate in time. Project the vision through their bond, let them see the ambush before it sprung. But doing both would require channeling Oracle power beyond her current ability. It would cost her everything, possibly her life. Certainly the lives of the babies growing inside her. This was the trial of sacrifice. Choose which mate to save, or risk everything to save both. Isla came back to herself on the floor of the great hall, blood trickling from her nose, both mates kneeling beside her in terror. "What did you see?" Thorn demanded. "Ambush!" she gasped. "Both of you, north and south. Raven split his forces. It's happening now. Right now, your patrols are walking into traps." Through the bond, she felt them realize the truth. Their warriors were already engaged, already fighting, already dying. Isla made her choice. She would not choose between them. Could not. She reached deep into the oracle power, deeper than Sybil had taught her, to go past safety and into the realm where prophecy could reshape reality. She grabbed both mate bonds and channeled the vision through them simultaneously. The cost was immediate and catastrophic. Power roared through her like wildfire, burning away everything it touched. Her consciousness fractured. The baby's presence flickered. Everything hurt. But Thorn and Blaze received the vision, saw the ambush positions, ordered their warriors to shift formation at the last possible second. Silver arrows flew and found empty air. The ambushes failed. Both kings survived. And in the great hall, Isla collapsed, bleeding from nose and ears, her body convulsing as oracle power tore through her unprepared channels. "Get the healer," Blaze roared. "Now!" Isla felt herself slipping away, consciousness fading. But through the dimming bond, she felt her mates alive, safe, victorious. She had saved them both. The trial of sacrifice was complete, and the price was only beginning. Day 36. Dawn broke cold and merciless. Isla woke to wetness between her thighs and pain like nothing she had ever experienced. The babies. They were coming now. The healer was summoned. Warriors ran through corridors. Thorn and Blaze materialized at her bedside, their faces white with terror, barely controlled. "Both twins are breached," the elderly healer said after examination. Her hands trembled. "Luna, I must be honest. They're coming faster than natural. The divine acceleration that helped them develop is now forcing early labor. At this stage, with this positioning, I can save you or the babies. Not all three. You must choose." "No," Thorn's roar shook windows. "There must be a way. Magic, oracle power, something. Your Majesties, I am sorry, but even divine intervention has limits." "Save them all," Blaze commanded, alpha power rolling through his voice like thunder. "That is an order. Even kings cannot change what the goddess herself has ordained," the healer whispered. Isla's hand found theirs through the pain. "Don't make her choose. It's not her fault." Another contraction ripped through her, stealing her breath. Through the pain and fear, Isla's oracle sense activated. Not with visions of the future this time, but with awareness of the present. She felt the baby's consciousness small and desperate, fighting to live. Felt their alpha power already manifesting impossibly strong. Felt something else. Divine presence. The goddess herself watching this moment unfold. Isla reached for that presence with everything she had left. "Please," she prayed, "I've passed your trials, betrayal, sacrifice, sovereignty. I've proven myself. If there's mercy left in creation, let my sons live. Let me live to raise them. Let us be the family you designed us to be." The room filled with silver light. Elder Sybil gasped from her position near the door. "The goddess. She's here." Power flooded into Isla, gentle but overwhelming. It wrapped around the babies, shifting their positions impossibly fast. It strengthened her body, giving her reserves she should not possess. It accelerated development that should have taken weeks, condensing it into heartbeats. The goddess spoke not with words, but with absolute knowledge pressed directly into Isla's consciousness. "You are Oracle, Unifier, Mother of the next generation. Your children will bridge worlds and heal ancient wounds, but they cannot do this if they never draw breath. So I give you a gift, a blessing, proof that you are worthy." The contractions intensified. Isla screamed, gripping her mate's hands hard enough to bruise. The healer worked frantically, guided by instinct and divine intervention. 18 hours of labor. 18 hours of Thorn and Blaze pouring their strength through the mate bond, keeping her conscious, keeping her fighting. And then as the sun set on day 36, a thin wailing cry filled the chamber. "A boy," the healer sobbed, holding up the tiny infant. "Perfect, healthy." The goddess blessed him. Atlas Nightshade, born with silver eyes that mirrored Thorn's and a passionate cry that could wake the dead. His alpha power, impossibly strong for a newborn, radiated through the room. Minutes later, his brother followed. Phoenix Nightshade, amber eyes like blazes but with a controlled demeanor that suggested Thorn's influence. He emerged quietly, observing the world with ancient wisdom. The healer wrapped both infants and placed them on Isla's chest. "They're perfect. All three of you survived. I've never seen anything like this." The goddess herself intervened. Isla looked down at her sons, these tiny miracles who should not exist, and felt her heart expand beyond anything she had thought possible. Through the mate bond, she felt Thorn and Blaze's overwhelming emotion, joy, relief, love so profound it bordered on religious experience. "They're ours," Blaze whispered, his voice cracking. "Our sons, our future." "Atlas and Phoenix," Thorn said, touching each tiny head with infinite gentleness. "Named for strength and rebirth. Perfect." The pack celebrated through the night, howls echoing across the mountains. The twin heirs had been born. The Oracle Luna had survived. The goddess had blessed them all. But in the dungeons below the keep, Garrett Wolfsbane had not given up. Weeks of imprisonment had taught him patience. He had watched the guards learn their patterns, waited for the moment when celebration would distract everyone. Tonight, with the pack's attention on the newborn heirs, he made his move. The dislocated shoulder was agony, but it allowed him to slip the silver chains. The drainage system Elder Sybil had warned should be guarded, conveniently accessible. He did not know he was walking exactly the path Isla's oracle sight had shown her weeks ago. Did not know he was the mouse in a trap built by the prey he thought he was hunting. 2 days later, as Isla recovered and learned to feed her son's danger manifested one final time. Day 38, midnight. Isla woke to wrongness. The nursery connected to her chambers through a door that stood open for feeding times felt cold. Too cold, and the baby's presence through her maternal bond, that constant awareness mothers develop, had dimmed. She ran on instinct, nightgown tangling around her legs. The nursery door stood open. And inside, lit by moonlight through high windows, Garrett Wolfsbane held a silver blade to Atlas's throat. He had escaped, broken his chains, infiltrated the keep, made it all the way to the royal chambers through impossible odds and desperate determination. His face was gaunt from weeks of imprisonment. His eyes burned with madness and hatred. "Hello, Isla. Miss me?" "Put him down," Isla said, her voice deadly calm despite terror screaming through every nerve. "Garrett, please, he's innocent. Just a baby." "Just a baby who will grow into an Alpha King," Garrett snarled. "Just a baby who represents everything you chose over me. You could have been mine. Could have lived a simple life as a beta's mate, but you wanted more. Wanted power. Wanted them." "I wanted to be valued," Isla corrected. "You saw me as defective. They saw me as blessed. That's not ambition. That's basic self-respect." "Respect," Garrett laughed, the sound cracked and wrong. "You destroyed my life, ruined my reputation. I was a laughingstock after you chose them over me. My own pack exiled me for the shame I brought. Raven was supposed to help me get revenge, but your cursed oracle sight ruined that too." Through the mate bond, Isla felt Thorn and Blaze approaching, felt them moving into position outside the nursery. But Garrett's blade was sharp and Atlas's throat was fragile. One wrong move and her son would die. "What do you want?" Isla asked, taking a small step forward. "I want you to leave with me. Now, tonight. Walk away from your kings and your pack and your perfect new life. Come with me and I'll spare the baby. Refuse and I'll kill him, then the other one, then hunt down every Omega in this territory until your precious mates drown in blood." "You won't leave this room alive," Isla said quietly. "Thorn and Blaze are already here. You know that. There's no escape." "Then we all die together," Garrett said with eerie calm. "If I can't have you, no one can. If I can't have happiness, neither can you." This was the moment, the culmination of everything. And suddenly Isla understood. She had been playing defensive this entire time, reacting to Garrett's moves, surviving his attacks. But she was Oracle. She saw futures. She could shape them. And she had seen this moment weeks ago. "You're right about one thing," Isla said, her voice changing, taking on the authority of Luna of Oracle, of someone who had passed 3 trials and earned divine favor. "I did see this coming, weeks ago. Every move you've made since the trafficking rescue. I saw it all." Garrett's eyes widened. "You're lying." I saw you escape your silver chains by dislocating your own shoulder. Saw you infiltrate the keep through the eastern drainage system that we left deliberately unguarded. Saw you make it to this nursery at exactly this time." She took another step forward. "And I saw what happens next. Stay back. I planted false intelligence about guard rotations. Left that drainage entrance accessible. Even had the night patrols shift their patterns to give you a clear path here. Everything you've done tonight, I orchestrated. You think you're the predator, Garrett? You're the prey. You always were. Behind Garrett, shadows moved. Thorn and Blaze, who had not entered through the obvious door, but through the secret passage that connected all royal chambers. They had been in position for 5 minutes, waiting for Isla's signal. Now, Isla said. Thorn grabbed Garrett's knife hand, twisting with brutal efficiency. The blade clattered to the floor. Blaze caught Atlas, who had been held with such casual cruelty, cradling the infant protectively. Garrett tried to fight, but he was weak from imprisonment and outnumbered by 2 Alpha Kings whose mate and child had been threatened. The struggle lasted seconds. When Garrett lay pinned to the floor, Thorn's knee on his spine, Isla stepped forward and looked down at the man who had tried to destroy her multiple times. I could have you executed, she said. Pack law allows it. You invaded royal chambers, threatened an heir, attempted kidnapping. Any one of those crimes carries death penalty. Then do it, Garrett spat. Kill me. At least I'll die knowing I almost won. But you didn't almost win, Isla corrected. You never had a chance. Because I am not the cursed Omega you rejected. I am Oracle, Luna, Mother, Queen. I am blessed by the goddess herself, and you're just a bitter man who couldn't accept that rejection was your own failure, not mine. She turned to Elder Sybil, who had arrived with the guards. Convene the council. I want this done publicly. Every pack member as witness. The days following Garrett's capture were tense. Isla spent hours in the nursery, unable to let Atlas and Phoenix out of her sight. The trauma of seeing a blade at her son's throat replayed in nightmares. Ren stayed by her side, understanding in ways few others could. You saved us all, the young Omega said quietly on the second day. Not just from the traffickers. You showed us Omegas can be strong in different ways. That wisdom is strength too. On the third morning, scouts brought news. Raven Daggerfang had been found dead in the northern forest. His own followers had turned on him after the failed ambushes, the collapsed trafficking network, the loss of their last hope. They blamed him for everything and delivered their own justice. It's over, Thorn set his hand on Isla's shoulder. The external threat is ended. But the internal work is just beginning, Isla replied. She had seen this in her visions weeks ago, not just defeating villains, but building systems that prevented new ones from rising. That's why the public trial mattered. Not vengeance, but justice. Not just punishment, but transformation. She called for the council to convene at dawn. The trial took place as the sun rose. The entire pack gathered in the Great Hall to watch their Luna pronounce judgment on the wolf who had terrorized so many. Isla stood before the assembled crowd, Atlas in her arms, Phoenix held by Blaze. She wore her authority like armor. Garrett Wolfsbane, she said, her voice carrying to every corner, you are found guilty of trafficking Omegas, of attempted murder of Luna and heirs, of conspiracy with rogue forces against pack interest. The traditional sentence is death. The pack waited in breathless silence. But I will not kill you, Ayla continued. Death is too quick, too merciful. Instead, I strip you of your wolf. I exile you from all territories, packless and powerless. You will live as human in a wolf's world, surviving on the mercy of creatures you once considered beneath you. And every day of your miserable life, you will remember that the cursed Omega you rejected showed you more mercy than you deserved. She turned to Elder Sybil. Perform the ritual. The pack magic channeled through their Oracle Luna ripped Garrett's wolf spirit from his body. He screamed as part of his soul was torn away, leaving him fundamentally broken. When it was done, he collapsed, sobbing, no longer wolf, but not fully human either. Get him out of my territory, Isla commanded, and if he ever returns, the mercy ends. Garrett was dragged away, broken and defeated. The pack erupted in howls of approval. Justice had been served. Their Luna had proven her strength one final time. The threat was ended. The trials were complete. The Oracle Luna had reshaped their world. 6 months later, day 216. Spring had returned to the Cascade Mountains, turning winter's harshness into new growth and possibility. The Nightshade Keep bustled with activity, expanded by new construction to accommodate the 57 rescued Omegas who had found permanent homes in the territory. Isla stood on the royal balcony watching the pack move through their daily routines. Atlas and Phoenix, now 6 months old and already showing alpha traits far beyond their age, played on a blanket nearby under Ren Ashford's watchful care. The young Omega had become Isla's closest friend and the twins' favorite babysitter. They're getting so big, Morgan Steele observed, joining Isla at the railing. The Southern Omega Queen had become a regular visitor, her territories now formally allied with the Nightshade Pack. Atlas tried to alpha command me yesterday. A 6-month-old. It didn't work, obviously, but the fact that he tried, they're going to be a handful, Isla agreed with a smile. Phoenix is already reading emotions like an empath, and Atlas's strength is terrifying. He accidentally broke his crib last week. Divine blessing has its complications, Morgan said wisely. Below them, the pack moved with purpose and contentment. Isla had spent 6 months implementing reforms that would reshape Omega rights across multiple territories. The Omega Council, established 3 months prior, gave previously powerless wolves political voice. New laws protected against forced matings, allowed property ownership, and created pathways for Omegas to hold positions of authority. Thorn and Blaze had supported every reform, showing that Alpha leadership and Omega empowerment could coexist. Their example inspired other packs to reconsider their own traditions. "How do you feel?" Morgan asked quietly. Isla's hands settled on her stomach where new life had begun growing 2 months prior. Twin girls this time, the healer had confirmed yesterday. The news was not yet public. "Blessed," Isla said simply, terrified, grateful, all of it at once. Her mates emerged onto the balcony, drawn by the bond that connected all three of them. Thorn moved to her left, Blaze to her right, and flanking her in the protective formation that had become natural over months of ruling together. "The delegation from the Western Territories is here," Thorn said. "3 alphas seeking your counsel on integrating rescued Omegas into their packs." "Your reputation grows," Blaze added with pride. "The Oracle Luna, who reshaped the North. Every pack wants your guidance now." "They want to learn," Isla corrected, "how to lead with wisdom instead of just strength. How to value all pack members, not just the powerful. That's not my knowledge alone. That's what we've built together." Through the mate bond, she felt their love, their devotion, their absolute commitment to her and the life they had created. The bond that had once terrified her with its intensity now felt like home, like completion, like destiny fulfilled. Elder Sybil appeared in the doorway, her ancient face creased with a smile. "The prophecy is complete. 3 trials passed, twin heirs born, pack reformed. You have become what Alara could not. You survived." "We survived," Isla said, looking at her mates. "All 3 of us. Together." "And what comes next?" Blaze asked, amber eyes warm. Isla's oracle sight activated, showing her futures spreading like threads from this moment. She saw Atlas and Phoenix growing into powerful leaders. Saw her twin daughters born healthy and strong, carrying gifts of their own. Saw the Nightshade territories expanding, prospering, becoming beacon of progressive leadership. And in the farthest future, 15 years hence, she saw a girl with white hair and silver eyes watching her sons from forest shadows. The next oracle awakening to her power, the cycle continuing. "What comes next," Isla said, smiling at the vision, "is legacy. We teach our children what we've learned. We spread these reforms to other territories. We prove that change is possible, that cursed Omegas can become queens, that rejected outcasts can reshape the world." Thorn's hand found hers. "From trembling virgin to legendary Luna. How does it feel?" "Like I'm exactly where I belong," Isla said. "Not despite being Omega, but because of it. The goddess knew what she was doing when she blessed me with 2 mates and a pack to lead." "They said you'd take both our knots that first night," Blaze murmured, pulling her close. "They were right, but what they didn't know is that I'd also take your hearts," Isla finished, "your kingdom, your future, and I'd change everything." The pack below began the evening howl voices, rising in harmony as sun set over the mountains. Isla joined them, her voice lifting with theirs, claiming her place among them not as outsider or cursed Omega, but as Luna, as Oracle, as the one who had passed every test and earned her crown through wisdom and strength. Atlas and Phoenix added their tiny howls to the chorus, already learning their place in the pack. Wren laughed, delighted by their enthusiasm. Morgan and Sybil exchanged knowing looks, seeing the future taking shape before them. And as darkness fell over the Cascade Mountains, as stars emerged overhead and pack bonds hummed with contentment, Isla Ravencroft, Nightshade, understood a fundamental truth. She had been rejected and called cursed, had been exiled and left to die, had been trafficked and threatened and tested beyond endurance. But she had survived it all, had transformed each trial into triumph, had proven that Omega did not mean powerless, that pale skin was not cursed, that late presentation was not defect. She was Oracle, mother, queen, reformer, legend. And her story, the tale of the cursed Omega who became salvation, would echo through generations yet unborn. The twin Alpha Kings had claimed their virgin bride, but in the end she had claimed them right back, and together they had changed the world. 15 years later, in the deep forest, A girl with white hair and silver eyes watched two young alpha princes training in the distance. Atlas and Phoenix Nightshade, 17 years old, powerful and confident, and completely unaware they were being observed. The girl felt power stirring inside her. Oracle power. Ancient and overwhelming and terrifying. Not yet, she whispered to herself, but soon. And in the Nightshade Keep Oracle Maw, Morueala felt a disturbance in the threads of future possibility. She smiled knowing another cycle was beginning. The goddess always provided, and the story was never truly finished, just transformed, just beginning again, just as it should be.